Coming to you live from the Stream.tv studios in Hollywood, California, Pensado's Place is brought to you by Vintage King, The Recording Connection, and the Blackbird Academy.
Our guest has actually played in front of 3 million people. You're going to learn a lot from him, a fantastic music maker. We've got a brand new ITL. We got a very suave Dave Pensado. You're at the place, baby. It's Pensado's Place. Amen.
Hey, man, glad you guys could drop by. It's going to be a fun-filled show. A lot to learn today. Particularly for me, and a little bit of rejuvenation in the process. How
Absolutely.
are you, Herbert?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You're one of your favorite artists was on Arsenio, right? Did you?
Oh,
you
yeah.
attend the taping?
Yeah. I went by and checked out Macy Gray on Arsenio. Man, she nailed it. She killed it. Yeah, I love the song. It was the song I just mixed for her, and got to see a couple buddies, Alex Al and Robin DiMaggio and
Rob Bacon and that.
Rob Bacon's. Oh man, Rob.
Ridiculous players.
Rob is like humbling.
Ridiculous players, absolutely.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you guys want to catch that, you probably go to Arsenio Hall's website because it's aired by the time you're seeing this. But a super talented guy, and obviously a super talented lady, correct?
Yeah, Macy is, and she's just getting, I don't know, she's becoming one of the premier handful of artists that this country's ever produced.
She's a special lady.
She's tailor-made for today's world. She's unique.
Yeah.
She's talented. One of the most intelligent people I've ever met.
True artist.
Yeah. And boy, she does it her way.
I love it. I really like her.
There ain't no camp involved with that girl.
No, not at all.
Except for Z-Man.
Oh, right. And Jason.
And Jason.
Should we get to the matters at hand?
Please.
Cool. Hey, everybody. How the heck are you? Happy to be with you for our weekly soiree and hang together. The Vintage King troops are all gathered back in the Motor City, Detroit, or Detroit, as some people may say. They're doing some planning and have been keeping me abreast of that stuff. Shout outs to all our family. You know what, Dave, one of the things that you did this week, you put some cool words of wisdom in the Blackbird Academy newsletter this month. What actually did you say?
Thank you, Herm. Well, I was thinking about the Blackbird Academy, and I remember as a child, speaking a lot of Spanish, and then as time has gone on, I've forgotten my Spanish. And one of the ways to learn a language is to just go to that country and immerse yourself in having to speak only that language. And it dawned on me that the Blackbird Academy provides that for audio because it's a total immersion process. I mean, you're walking distance to 8 of the greatest studios on earth.
Yep.
You have access to John McBride and his wisdom. You've got access to some incredible teachers. We know them all personally.
Unbelievable. And talent.
That's what I was about to say. The list of people walking through the place. So you get to speak audio 24/7. You get to hang out with like-minded people to discuss audio. So you talk audio. Say that 3 times, sir.
Audio.
That's why you're the best, sir.
Thank you, man. It's Canadian, baby. Here's the other part about Blackbird. I've been on the phone a couple of times with John. They got some big plans in the works, man.
Yeah.
And from a number of different ways. Plans for school opportunities for our audience, major partnerships that they're going to announce very soon, product launch that they're going to announce soon that is sick, right?
I can't wait to announce that.
Oh my God. So guys, stay tuned. It's major. Can't tell you yet, but just it's coming.
There could be a magnetic pole shift on the earth. It could be dangerous when the 3 main talented people, you and X and John get together in the same space. I'm sure it's going to be a magnetic pole shift.
You're crazy.
It could solve global warming issues.
You know what? Climate change.
Yeah.
We could fix climate change.
I think so.
Okay. Recording Connection is having some really great success with those newly picked apprentices. They're settling in and starting to learn, which we think is really great. We're going to learn a lot more about those stories as they get further into their process and see how they do. And now, for your Pensado's Place weekly reminder, like and subscribe, gang. You know we appreciate it. That trend continuing upward is so important. It impacts us on all kinds of fronts, and Dave and I thank you
very much
personally for that. You have kept that trend going, man, and I'm telling you, we turn that into an opportunity that we can give back to you. So we thank you for that. And finally, before ITL, the big event, the Pensado Awards, is June 28th at the Fairmont Hotel in Santa Monica. I got to tell you, from my chair and Dave's chair, so far it's been such a kick in the pants to see how the community continues to come together about all this. Dave and I and Cole were hanging out at lunch the other day, and one of the big stations here is Power 106 in LA. Eric Deluxe stopped by and gave us props about the show and the awards, and he was with DJ Vice, and he came out and gave us a shout out and all that kind of stuff. We now have people like charities that are reaching out that have from really well-known hospitals that they would like to figure out if there's a connection between us helping sick kids through the Pensado Awards because music lifts them so much. And they'd like to potentially get involved with the awards and see what we could do, maybe utilize some of you music makers and some of our pros and some of our enthusiasts to help that. That's an amazing, powerful thing that you can help us with. Can you imagine helping a sick kid live longer or be inspired all through this?
Gosh.
We got folks reaching out from other countries and interest. The bottom line is just very inspiring and again speaks to this incredible community that you're a member of that is really about you and that you are helping to create this magic. Yep. Our man Will is busy scheduling Dave for rewards and Skype sessions.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a ball. Yeah. And Google Hangs with all you producers out there. I think all that's getting scheduled toward the end of this week. For some of the voting members, we're coming to you in just a little bit so you can submit your nominations and vote. It's all coming together. The machinery is in motion. So here's the drill, as you know. Go to fundanything.com/Pensado. Talk with Will. Get your questions answered. If you're in a position to support, we love it. The community appreciates that. If not, just activate your body and activate your fingers. Join us, get activated. Let's show folks how it's really done, right?
That's what we do best.
That's
show folks how it's done.
Absolutely. So, in fact, showing folks how it's done, why don't you introduce the ITL?
You know what? I want you guys to take a look at this Into the Lair because over the years we've become a slave to just pulling up a delay and whatever the timing of the song is, it's in perfect time. But I like sometimes to use imperfect delays. I used to call it asymmetrical delays, and I did it on a lot of my big records in the 90s. But I'm showing you how to take a multi-tap delay, in this case 6 delays, and arrange them so none of them are in time, but the collective bunch of those 6 delays gives you something really cool. I think it's cool. Hope you like it. On this Into the Lair, I want to show you some things about delays. Now, in the early days of recording, people didn't really take too much time to match up delays based on BPM, and there were no DAWs to do it automatically, so you did delays by feel and by hearing. We didn't have a whole lot of options for delays back then because there were no digital delays, and so we created delays with quarter-inch tape machines and things like that. I sometimes return to the days of yesteryear in terms of delays by creating delays that are totally out of time. But if you get several of them and you do it by feel, you can create a very unique delay that will really stand out as a cool thing to your friends and hopefully on the radio, all right? Now, I'm cheating. I'm using a plug-in that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 delays built in, but you can set up multiple delays. It doesn't have to all be in the same plug-in. I'm using this just to kind of make it a little easier to see. Now, if you notice, I'm not clicking the sync button, so I'm able to set a delay. These are some delays I preset. We're going to go through those. Now, right now, there's no delay.
When you're next to me.
There's no delay, so I'm going to turn this one on.
When you're next to me. When you're next to me. Baby, when you're next, so I just...
Okay, you can hear that. Now, I'm going to set them pretty quickly.
When you're next to me. Baby...
Okay, a little off. Now let's turn this one off, and let's do another one.
When you're next to me. Baby, when you're next, so I just want...
Okay, that one's a little off too. Kind of cool. Third one.
When you're next to me. Baby, when you're next, so I just wanna hold you tight. When you're next to me.
Now you'll notice I'm getting progressively a little bit longer, but that's too long.
When you're next to me.
Okay, I like that. Now we're just roughing these in. We'll come back a little bit and tweak them.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so I just wanna hold you tight, treat you right, and be by your side.
Okay, that's gonna work. This last guy's gonna be pan in the middle. Let's make it a little longer.
When you're next to me.
Okay. Now let's go through and let's just guess a little bit. The longer ones, let's make them a little quieter, and let's pan them in just a little. The shorter ones can be a little louder. We'll pan them wide. Now, this is your discretion. You can do it however you want. Let's turn all these guys on, and then we'll tweak it one more time.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so.
Okay, the long one's kind of on the right side is kind of bothering me. You heard it sticking out a little bit.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so I just wanna hold you.
Ooh, I think that's pretty good.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so I just wanna hold you tight.
Let's listen to that with some drums.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so I just wanna hold you tight, treat you right.
Pretty cool, huh? And you know, if it starts bothering you, tweak it a little bit. Now let's put everything in time and see what the difference is.
When you're next to me.
I think I've only got one shot at this, so check it out and watch when I click this.
When you're next to me, baby, when you're next, so I just wanna hold you tight, treat you right, and be by your side. Baby, when you're next to me.
It sounds better a little random, not in perfect time, than it does when I put it in sync and it went to perfect time. Experiment with this. You'll find it works on guitars, works on vocals, cheeseburgers, a lot of stuff. Next time.
Just recently, Dave and I had a chance to spend about an hour with just an amazing music maker, songwriter, a key figure in a space that you really should know about. I mentioned at the top of the show how many people he's played in front of, but it's really about as you meet this guy and find out more about him. We had a great time with him.
Yeah.
We think you're going to have a great time with him. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Matt Maher. We could not be more thrilled to have somebody who truly is bringing down the walls in a space that in 150 episodes we haven't had a chance to cover properly, even though we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on top of it, he's Canadian. So, you know, I'm thrilled.
Well, on top of it, he also lives in Nashville, so.
On top of it. So, but I have equity there too. So, welcome to the desk. Matt
Thank you
Maher.
so much.
Thank
Hey,
you,
man.
sir.
Good to have you,
Thank
man.
you, sir. Thank you for joining us. DP, hit it.
Matt, I know you're the authority on all things good and evil. And I've always been fascinated, by the way, guys, he's a trained musician. He really knows his stuff, so I'm going to embarrass myself a little bit. But I've always been fascinated by the augmented fourth chord, or I like to think of it as taking two minor thirds and stacking those intervals together and creating a diminished. And there was a time in history when people got killed for playing that because the church that you and I love thought it was evil and was a gateway to Satan coming into your life. Explain the history, a little bit of the history of that in terms of, are there sounds that are good and sounds that are evil? Are there anything that's off limits to a Christian artist?
Well, I think, you know, the tritone was, the Spanish term for it was the diablos in music, the devil in music.
Yeah, it had to be Spanish that invented that, but yeah, go ahead.
And partially what it was that when early chant music was being written, they weren't necessarily all on equal temperament. And so an augmented fourth and a non-equal on a non-well-tempered instrument was a really, really ugly sound. And
the
then
Gregorians used Locrian mode.
Yeah. And then like you had like in the 16th century, you had Palestrina, and all these composers, they developed all these rules, and one of the rules was you avoid this interval at all costs because it's hard to sing, and it's difficult to resolve, and in their mind it wasn't pleasing because it didn't really produce a good enough resolution. And then there probably was maybe some pushback from the hierarchy of the church, and when they would commission composers. Like Bach uses it in the Passion specifically to sort of talk about the crucifixion, as if to say, like, this is the devil's handiwork. But some of it is exaggeration. Like David Arnold in the Oxford History of Music, he sort of talks about that there was a little bit of an exaggeration in terms of the fact that the church would sort of like go out of its way to punish people. They did probably go out of its way to discourage. And composers themselves were discouraging people from it. It's like one of my favorite intervals. Now I love it. I mean, partially I grew up obsessed with film scores. I wanted to do film scoring, and John Williams, and I mean pretty much Jerry Goldsmith, all the the big guys throughout my childhood, 80s and 90s. That is such an amazing interval to use because it simultaneously, if it's sort of set up the right way, it portrays hope and possibility.
Well, coming out of it portrays hope. Going into it makes you stop breathing sometimes. like what was that song? And then, and then along came Jones. It was like, more succinctly, in today's musical world, we still have residual elements of that concept.
Absolutely.
Like the heavy metal guys have kind of usurped that tritone, so now the contemporary Christian guys can't touch it, right?
Yeah, I think part of it is the sort of the emergence of pop music being the most dominant idiom of communicating in our culture. A lot of, particularly evangelical Christianity, some of them tend to view music as really just a vehicle. It's like a container, and the message to them is more important. I think there's a pushback. I know a lot more artists who care just as much about the art, the container, as the message. And so I'd like to hope that you would see sort of maybe the reemergence of more music that has and contains more tension in it, because I think, not to get super spiritual, but for a moment, but I think that it's in the midst of the struggle in music that it more accurately portrays the struggle that is within each and every human person. That life itself in some ways is a journey of victories and defeats and struggles, and it's not all just roses and rainbows. And so I think, to answer your question, I think it's harder to write a great song and to take dissonant musical idioms and combine them and create something that in 4 minutes could somehow resolve. And you know what I mean? And that's the hardest thing, even as a songwriter, is can you write a song about longing? Can you write a song about sort of a confession of dependence or need, and it doesn't wrap up perfectly, and yet it's somehow hopeful. And I think that's kind of where a lot of artists in the contemporary Christian music world, some of them don't even bother, and just they kind of look for songs that are super easy and kind of everything resolves great. But there is a community of people, and I'd say I kind of have a foot in both of those communities.
Well, speaking of having a foot in both of those, and by the way, I think once we have great art, which doesn't come along all the time, great art oftentimes reflects that battle, in my opinion, and it leaves you pondering and wondering and reaching and illuminated and stuff like that. But it's a reflection of kind of what's going on, the forces inside. You have your foot. I mean, it's amazing, which we haven't said to the audience. You've opened for the Pope, played to 3 million people. You've played to 700,000 folks, which ended in silence and just in prayer. I mean, you have a platform that most pop artists would just die to have. And interestingly and Canadianly enough, you have your foot on both sides of the gas pedal, right? There's the Catholic side of you, and you're playing the evangelicals, and that is an amazing place to sit in such a powerful place. Do you think about that as you do your art, or do you just do your art?
I had a moment. I was in outside of London. Mm-hmm. There was a small music festival, and it was on the grounds of like an old convent. Mm-hmm. And it was 2005, and I remember I was playing there, and we were singing songs, and it was kind of more of like a prayerful moment. And I had this kind of sense. I don't get it a lot of times, right? It's not like I feel like I don't talk to God every day and actually hear something. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I'm met with silence. Mm-hmm. But that's not a bad thing. Right. But I had this sense of I heard this phrase that was like, if you want to be a bridge, you got to lay down and let people walk over you.
Wow. Wow.
And I think I tend to look at it like everywhere I go in whatever situation I find myself in, it's the first thing is how can I serve the people I'm with? Mm-hmm. And I think in order to do that, you have to kind of walk in saying, kind of with an attitude of like, I'm no better than anybody mm-hmm. else. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so if it's, if it's sort of in the non-denominational Christian world, I walk in as a Catholic. It's not I'm better than anybody else. It's I'm here to serve these people mm-hmm. and be a brother. And if it's at a World Youth Day and a couple million people there, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll do that. Right. And I think any artist, you get opportunities. There's these little moments where your platform is sort of hyperextended for a brief period of time. Yeah. And I think you have two options. One, you either think it's all about you, mm-hmm. or you realize that you're just a part of something larger that's happening.
Yeah. Which is the right posture.
I would tend to think.
Yeah. No question about it. No question about it.
Respectfully, and we talked about this a little earlier, so I'm being respectful when I say this, but one of the things that comes to mind is if you write a song and nobody hears it, that's not really what you're trying to do. Now, if you write a song and it sounds kind of like 10 years ago it was done, are you getting the audience that you want? If you write a song that sounds like it's like up to date and modern, do you lose your audience? How do you balance that? Because a lot of contemporary Christian music that I listen to is very well executed technically, but it just that's not the genre I go to learn where music is going. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, because there's a different purpose for that music than pop music. And I believe in making records for the people that are going to buy them. Mm-hmm. Can you expand on that concept? Because you're at the forefront of that. Your records sound very modern, and I like that about you.
Well, I think it goes back to a little bit of what I was saying earlier, where if you tend to view music as just a malleable container, that it's not really what you're doing, then I think what ends up happening is that you make music that's reactive to the world around you, particularly culture. So you tend to look at what's being made in LA, what's being made in New York, or what's being made in the indie music world. And I grew up, I was influenced by everybody. I remember being in the 7th grade, walking by my parents' room, and Billy Joel live, and Leningrad was on. He was playing Angry Young Man, and I was transfixed. And so that's influenced me. So it's gonna come out. But I think there's a difference between being influenced by sound and then basically saying, I could use that sound to convey a message. And I think maybe that's some of the tension of what you're saying, where it's like, if, pop music right now has had a really, really great run. Some of the most amazing songs, I think, we're in such a great time. There's so much great music being written. I think the temptation maybe in the Christian music industry can be, well, let's copy that. Mm-hmm. But I tend to run into more and more artists who do have a sense of they're trying to find a voice, but it's hard, it's risky. And
How is it risky?
Well, it's risky because, like David Guggenheim made From the Sky Down. It's U2's story of how they made Achtung Baby. And there's this great quote in the movie where Bono says, in order to basically go from one record to the next, you have to be willing to reinvent yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
And in between, there's nothing.
Yes.
You have to kind of risk it all. And I love that. And at the same time, sheepishly, I go, well, some people kind of say, like what you're saying, they go, you know what, I have an audience and I have a mission of what I'm doing with my life and my music. And it's making a difference in people's lives. It's helping moms and dads be better parents. It's helping kids process growing up in a new world. So they're not necessarily trying to be trendsetters. And that, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think they should be torn down for that. I think what would help is if at the same time there was opportunity to somehow make investments. It is happening. It's kind of under the radar, Stephen Curtis Chapman, amazing Christian artist, been around forever, unbelievable talent. He has 2 sons. They're musically amazing, but they just want to pursue a career as a general market band.
And I was going to say, as marketplaces play out, based on my experience, sometimes marketplaces that see themselves unto themselves, they will penalize and reward quicker. And if you break the rules in that space, there's some people who are traditionalists who will go, wait, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith. I mean, they had huge crossover songs, and it was met with massive resistance.
Absolutely.
Now it would be celebrated.
Right.
We're in a different, and that, I guess, so what I would say is that I think things have changed. I just think the industry is kind of catching up to it.
Well, and also guys like yourself have to be the bridges who are willing to let people. I mean, it just takes that. It doesn't matter what idiom it is. Somebody's got to say, okay, my back's broad enough to take the darts, but let me give it a shot. And as we were talking off camera, you can sort of feel the walls crumbling, right? And because as I came up as somebody who was sort of rooted in the gospel side and the Southern Baptist side, that was a space all into itself. And when you mixed, you kind of then went back to your thing, and so it's fun to watch the walls crumble because I think it makes for opportunities for interesting music.
Yeah, I think we're in a great period of transition. I have so many friends in the Christian music community who are great artists, and they're really trying to make new sounds. Some of it is if you get a hit single and you work with a certain producer and they develop a sound, but you don't know who you are as an artist, and then all of a sudden you tour 300 shows in 3.5 years or 2.5 years, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I figured out who I am as an artist, but you already have this established sound. I have some friends who are in that very space right now, and the record label is really like walking with them and saying, okay, we're not going to panic, we'll walk with you on it. But so we're in this kind of in between transitional phase, I think, in this industry.
What's your workflow process? How do you create?
Well, I do a lot of co-writing, and like any co-write, you either try to come in with a start, which is a verse and a chorus, or a concept. I'm very much a conceptual writer. I wrote a song a couple of years ago with 3 really great other songwriters. It was called White Flag. It got nominated for a Grammy, but the whole concept of it is that the image of a white flag sort of juxtaposed with the image of Jesus on a cross, so that it's a sign of surrender, yet it's also a sign of victory at the same time. And so we sort of like used that image and kind of explored it. And so I had this idea of a concept of a song, but I didn't have a song. So sometimes it's that. Right now I'm doing a lot of exploratory writing for my next record, and I'm actually trying to go about it differently. Rather than just write a bunch of songs, I'm sort of doing a lot of reading about the lives of different people throughout history, whether it's like a St. Francis of Assisi, and looking at some of the things that he's said, or different kind of prayers, and saying, well, how could this inspire a song? And because you have your stock things, you have drum beats that you grow up hearing, you have chord progressions that you gravitate towards, you know, and with the advent of, you know, I use Logic, and I could sit down and in 10 minutes have a groove up and running, and I could just kind of crank out a placeholder song.
Right.
But I think I'm kind of at a place now where I have the time to try to push myself a little bit, and I'm excited about that. You know what I mean?
We are too, actually.
For our audience that's not that familiar with Matt, he wrote a song that I just can't stop listening to called Your Grace Is Enough. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think routinely this song gets played in about 150,000 churches routinely, and that kind of lets you know how amazing this song is. And on that song, are hooks, or do you, how do you approach writing a hook? Because the hook on that song, you could change the lyrics and it would work anywhere.
I think a hook is a hook.
Okay.
I think the pre-chorus of Dark Horse, Katy Perry, is an amazing pre-chorus. I can objectively look at that as a songwriter and say, from sort of the mechanics of a song, great perspective. And it's very compelling, and I can even acknowledge that. I think the difference we're all trying to do this as artists. You're trying to write from a place of belief. You want to believe whatever it is you're trying to say. Otherwise, that's where you tend to kind of feel soulless. You know what I mean? So if I was writing a song about betrayal, if it was a country song, it's about having a broken heart. You want to write from a place of having a broken heart. I actually wrote that song from a place of having a broken heart.
Wow.
That song was written because I was dating a girl and we broke up, and I was really lonely.
Wow.
And so, you know, as a songwriter, you can, at the time, I was working full time at a church, and I was trying to write those kinds of songs. I was in Tempe, Arizona. I was playing at coffee houses occasionally, and I was trying to do that, but this form of expression just it felt honest to me. And I felt like this is part of my voice. And this is what I'm sort of been given a voice to help articulate. And so I had been attending a scripture study and was learning about the Old Testament kind of main relationships between God and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and how each one he interacted with them differently. It's very, very human. You know what I mean? And so the whole idea of God wrestling with Jacob, to me, was very comforting to say, like, I'm not okay that I'm single again. I'm in my mid-20s, and I feel like I sense a really bad pattern developing. And so it was this thing of thinking about that relationship, and then also remembering this phrase of Paul in the scriptures, hearing Jesus say, my grace is sufficient for you. And I just thought, well, if I sing it over and over again, maybe it'll get through into my heart, because it does. Like, music it does transmit belief.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's really good to sing a song about heartache. And like, my wife and I are driving around and we're hearing that song, say something, I'm giving up on you. And I cannot stop listening to it. And we're both crying. We're just in the moment of it, enjoying it. And I'm just like, what an amazing song. Like, those people did such a good job of capturing that human moment. And I just think that's a big, important part of writing.
And it also means you got the girl.
I did get, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? Music started as a way to praise God. So it would follow that if music started there, the music now is borrowing from that concept. So instead of going and borrowing from the concept that borrowed from the concept to create something now, just lead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
anyway, I don't know where that came from.
No, I think it's a very true statement. I think the Psalms contain the full scope of the human person. It's 150 songs, and every one is different. There's nuances. There's betrayal. There's tension. There's depression. There's joy. There's romance. It's all there. A lot of part of the problem is that probably in our effort to, once again, it's like bandwidth in people's lives, you tend to shrink the message into what's most palatable in a 3.5 minute format.
Tell me about touring for you. What kind of places are you playing? And one of the reasons I bring that up is I remember a record executive who's now departed at one point in time had Patti LaBelle on a tour playing mega churches, because those are 12 to 15,000 seat churches. There were no other commercial venues booked, and there were probably 20 dates throughout the country where she could just go in there and do their thing. So what's the scale and scope of how you tour?
A little bit of everything.
I bet.
I mean, my newest record that came out is like 60% live record. It's called All the People Said Amen. And we just brought out a Pro Tools rig and said, we're just going to record direct, like just live, no editing. We're just going to make an old school live record. But that weekend, I was at a Catholic church, a non-denominational church, the campus bar at the University of Notre Dame.
Wow.
And a Billy Graham crusade.
Wow.
So, and it's like that's kind of my life. Like I'm on a tour right now with Toby Mac, who's a phenomenal artist, and we're in, hockey arenas, and we were at the XL Center in Minneapolis, sold out.
Because you're playing the Forum.
Yeah, we're playing the Forum.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're playing the Forum in LA. And so I tend to say that the venue dictates the show.
Yeah.
If I love playing in front of 500 people, and I think every artist should continue to do that because it stretches you.
It's a different art form.
It forces you. It pulls you out of yourself and saying, okay, I don't have a 2-minute intro.
Right.
I don't have lights. I don't have choreography.
Absolutely.
All I have is
it's on me.
I have my voice. I have the lyrics, and I have the melody.
That's right.
And then I have the musicians I'm with.
That's right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
So it's a mix. It's a mix.
Wow.
I don't know why I thought of this, but ZZ Top once played, when they were first getting started, they once played a show to one guy. They got a standing ovation from him and came back and did an encore. True story.
Because there was no chair, so they got a standing ovation anyway.
I mean, you can do a great show with one guy or 100,000. Before we move on, the guitar on Your Grace Is Enough, that wasn't you, was it?
Yeah.
That was you?
Yeah, actually,
the guitar
I
player.
came up with the riff on that, yeah.
I was going to tease you, but that's a great guitar part.
Oh.
I love that guitar part. And the keyboard, the little sequencer parts in the verses, are you playing those live or are you sequencing them?
It was a combination. I think like that song, when I recorded it, it was, I think when we re-recorded it in 2008, because I wrote it 12 years ago. But then when I re-recorded it, it was a combination. I think I played the part twice and then we looped it. And
then another compliment, and the breakdown, like your voice goes dry and it just kind of comes right up to the front of the speakers. Man, I'm gonna rip that off. And then Lord, I Need You. I don't know how you made me do it, but I got excited about a damn tambourine. That's the greatest sounding tambourine ever. What did you do? What's the reverb on that? Do you remember?
I don't
say something expensive and esoteric. I mean,
I don't think. I mean, I think Paul Moak, who's been the producer I've worked with the past 3 records. He's a really great guy. He bought an old studio in Berry Hill, right around the corner from Vintage King.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were there.
And he was a guitar player. Played with Matt Kearney, Michael W. Smith. But he basically kept buying gear when he was on the road, and he was in one part of Berry Hill. He bought this bigger studio, and he just has the best collection. He's on an old SSL, but he got a Studer 2-inch up and running. He just produced the new, what's his name? Mark Broussard record, and it's all the 2-inch live.
Wow.
And Paul's very much one of the few producers I think in the CCM world. Rig? No, he has a full-blown Pro Tools rig.
Checking.
So with Lord I Need You, here's the cool thing about that song. It's probably been my biggest radio single in a while, and there was no click.
Really?
And that vocal and that guitar part are 2 takes put together.
Really?
First half. It's the only. It was the first time I ever did that, and it is. I love the fact that I can say it on a show like this.
Sure.
Because it's a thing as an artist. You grow up hearing stories about how artists made music, and you're like, man, I really want to at some point be able to do that. And just sort of live with it.
I feel that way every day.
Yeah.
Because it feels honest. So we always say that. Especially in the world of radio singles, it's nice to have a song that did that. But the drum kit was really unconventional. It's a concert bass drum, a tenor snare, and Jeremy Latito, he's the drummer for a band called Leagues. Great drummer. He just sort of tracked all that at once, and it's one of these wooden. He's got like 30 tambourines in the studio, and it's one of these just big wooden ones.
That's weird. It caught my ear right away. By the way, guys, check both those songs out. Your Grace Is Enough and Lord I Need You. They're not preachy, so don't get scared if you're not into that. They're great songs, great music by a great musician, and we support each other. Remember, so I want you to check that out.
We're big fans of Nashville, both because of the professionals that are there, and then the experience we had. We went down there, just has resonated with us. For you, for your space, for your creativity, for your convictions, good town to operate out of creatively. It seems like it would be just wonderful.
Man, I call it the Alamo of the music industry.
Absolutely, man. What a great way to put it. Absolutely.
I think, especially for musicians, you know, like I was a keyboard player for years in a band. Like the whole thing of me being a frontman or being an artist is it's really within a decade, you know. But I'm 39, so what I would say is that Nashville's great in that there's a community of artists who are all able to make a living, and the cost of living isn't too high.
Absolutely.
So everybody loves what they're doing. There is a sense of connection, and once again, the sort of the walls between the country world, which Nashville it's really great. They honor their songwriters. It's the songwriting profession in Nashville is alive and well, and it's an honored thing. You know? So yeah, it's been fantastic, and I feel like I've just sort of gotten started. I've only been living there for a year and a half. So
I think we felt, or at least I felt, let me speak for myself.
No, you speak for me.
That music drove things, and it was less the filters in LA and New York and other centers like that have to do with the strategy and having sharp elbows and what you're going to do. I just felt sort of unfettered about music, and I could love it, and we could get together and spirit that, and then we'd work out the business stuff afterwards. The music led.
Would you say this is an accurate statement? And I don't mean it in a negative way, or maybe I do. Would you say that Nashville feels about music the way Hollywood felt about movies 20 years ago? In other words, Hollywood was a movie town, and Nashville is a music town.
But they have a community that protects it, and they foster it. And we do business with some of one of the big dogs who protects it, and his passion is pure. And so all the folks we met, was Danny Frizzell or others, they led with music first. They received us as music people first, and I just thought that when I was sitting in some creative environments in various studios doing different things. It just felt like the creativity was first, and I felt liberated from that. And I've not been able to get out of my system. That's what's so.
No, it really is, and it's a place where I could be working on a record, and people come in from an entirely different genre, but they're like, "Man, I love what you're doing. It sounds great," and immediately it's like, well, I'm singing about God, but they're like, "No, man, it's music."
Yep.
Like that, that's what we share, and it's really good music,
But
I love, my buddy, which you guys know Kevin Becca.
Sure. Oh, love
Kevin's a good friend. I knew him from living in Phoenix, and so what they're doing with the Blackbird Academy, he had me come in, and I'm talking to all these students about songwriting, and probably only 2 or 3 of them go to church.
Right.
But it's like I'm not there to talk about church. I'm there to talk about songwriting.
Yep.
So there is a great sense of community that sort of transcends your kind of typical sort of dividing lines.
I mean, I hope this doesn't offend other people. We certainly feel strongly about Vintage King for sure, Recording Connection for sure. But the Blackbird Academy relationship for us, it's a serious thing for us because they're so serious.
Yeah.
And their students are so passionate, and we're just as passionate.
Let me clarify
sure,
something.
Man. Okay.
I was speaking to the Nashville Chamber of Commerce.
Got it.
Through the headset just then, and they asked me to remind the audience of this. And if you have no talent, don't go to Nashville and think they're going to embrace you with open arms. You got to be, in a spiritual, biblical sense, you got to be a badass when you go to Nashville to be accepted.
No doubt about it.
So don't think you can just stroll in there with like C, A minor, F, and G. It ain't going to work.
Right.
But if you got some talent, they embrace you. And one quick thing. I'm an Israel Houghton fanatic. Can I meet him through you sometime?
Anytime, and I know he'd love to be on the show.
Oh, tell
He's
him
a good
done.
friend. My first co-write was with Israel Houghton.
Tell him done.
Are you serious? Tell them what an amazing musician that guy is.
He is
He's
sick.
a freak. He's a freak of nature.
He's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
It's very rare that you could find an artist who could sit down at a piano and hang with anybody from the jazz or the blues or R&B community.
Yep.
And then also pick up an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar and rip an amazing solo.
Yeah.
And then have a vocal range that's like from here to the moon. I mean, it's funny. The first time I heard Bruno Mars, I told Israel, I was like, sounds like he listened to you, bro.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
Hey, you guys, help me formulate this thought. Like in the pop world, there's this huge space where a lot of people can fit in, and music of religious types, it's a very tiny space, and so only the cream of the crop get to the top. And I think the concentration of talent it feels like there's more talent in those smaller spaces because it's concentrated. In other words, the pop world can hold millions of people, but there's not that many opportunities in gospel and Christian and those kind of music. And you get guys like Israel Houghton, you get Andre Crouch, you get Yolanda Adams, you get these people that are like beyond amazing because there is no place else for them to go, I guess, in a way. Anyway,
No, I think
I asked for help. Thanks for help.
No, I think
You left me out there to hang, guys.
I think you're absolutely right. I think, like I look at a good friend of mine, Chris Tomlin. He's the most sung songwriter on the planet.
Wow.
Most sung songwriter play any genre, any format. He writes church music, but he tours. He's probably was in the top 200 grossing tours last year.
Wow.
He's a phenomenal artist. He's a fantastic vocalist. Every night he goes out on stage and he sings and he's dancing, but he's on pitch. He's on point. He knows his material. He's a great communicator. He's a world-class artist.
Wow.
And I just think that I think you're right. The advent of technology has made it more accessible for people to get noticed. But
That doesn't make them better.
it doesn't make them better, and in the long run, it still comes down to what you do live. And all the bells and the whistles in the world, they can enhance what you do, but you still have to be really good.
And to your point, as you prepare batter's box, when that sluice is smaller, the wheat and the chaff
Oh,
get
you got the
separated.
word sluice in the now. After when I needed you, where were you?
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Sometimes, there's a religious proverb. Sometimes you step off the cliff and the net will appear. So that's what we're doing. But I do think that when you have to come through a narrower gauge, and
that's a good way to
there's
put it.
only a few folks, and not everybody will fit in there, and the bad has
like
got to
that.
get there.
Yeah.
Why don't we tee up batter's box for our man Matt?
Let's go.
Okay.
Guitar.
Martin D16 and right now Gibson ES125.
Crack.
I would have said D18, but that's just me. Maybe a herringbone 35.
Well,
maybe a D28.
My dream's a D28.
You had your chance.
That's what I'm playing right
Vocals.
now. Dream Vocal ELAM 251.
Oh, okay.
Currently 414.
Okay.
All right, I want to get one answer. Sorry.
Do whatever you
Docking
want.
for that, Herb. Reverb.
The Room.
Okay.
Nice.
Island Gear.
The Neve console at Dave Grohl's studio.
Wow. Had to pull out a heathen for that one. Bass.
Welcome, Matt. Welcome to our madness.
I got to win any way I can, Herb.
I'd say mid-70s Fender P-Bass.
Okay. Cheapest gear on a popular song that you wrote.
Zoom makes a $40 guitar pedal. It was the first pedal I ever
A
bought.
delay pedal?
And it's like a multi-effects pedal. It's everything. It was $40. It's all plastic, and it made it on my first. It was pretty much all over my first record.
How you doing?
I love the rack mount unit. Synth. Virtual synths? You use a lot of those?
Yeah, virtual synth. I'd say Omnisphere.
Oh, okay. Strings.
London Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Times are good. Piano.
Touring Nord.
Okay.
Nord Stage, Nord Piano 2. is what I use now.
Stereo bus in Logic.
Just limiter and a compressor set to analog tape.
I got no more, Herm. Don't let the religious component sway
It was sort
sway
of a
your
fried
opinion, Herm.
pickle ass whooping. And look, he's Canadian, and I used a Nashville reference.
He did fried pickles.
Absolutely, pretty good. We got to go to corner office. Chongor Gans, are you over there, sir?
Yep, I'm over here. How are you guys?
Give us a couple of questions for our buddy Matt
Sounds
Maher.
good. This first one's from Desmond Berg. How do you approach vocal harmonies for contemporary Christian music, and does the thought process differ than a pop arrangement?
Oh, great song. Great question. Man.
I think I vocally, in terms of harmonies, I either gravitate to probably early 90s indie rock, just a third above the melody.
No Devil's Triads anywhere?
No, who I've been studying lately that I've been trying to figure out how to crack is Fleetwood Mac Rumors. Their harmonies are
Incredible.
incredible.
Incredible. My early career, I spent a lot of time with Mick Fleetwood. It was one of the most seminal 5-year periods of my life. It was amazing.
I'm
Richard Dashwood and those guys.
kind of
Yeah.
obsessed with how they created that sound. It's a bunch of people standing around a microphone.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I have a couple songs that I'm working on for my next record where I'm sort of dabbling into that.
Big
that
key,
world.
obviously, Lindsey Buckingham. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. John Gore, give us another.
Brian Jackson, after you played in front of 3 million people, were you able to sleep at night?
Wow, Brian. I was wondering the same thing.
NyQuil is an amazing drug. It happened so fast, such a flash in the pan moment. I did get emotional walking back to the hotel,
bet.
the realization of it. But then when I got home, when I got back to the hotel, I went out and had dinner and then just kind of went to bed and said, well, there you go.
I got a question for you. Back when I was playing live, I don't care how many people were in the audience, I could find and make eye contact with the one person that hated me. Were you able to do that with 3 million people?
No,
You weren't?
no.
You were just singing for Jesus.
Yeah, you
It
lose
becomes a blur at
perspective.
that point.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure, you're just performing.
you lose perspective.
Absolutely. John Gore, you got one more?
Yeah, I do. From MT Champion, while writing, do you translate your lyrics to have a modern feel, and is this a conscious thought process?
I love taking old language and trying to figure out sort of what's it. If I'm writing church music, I love finding old hymns and taking the lyrics of it and saying, what's this trying to communicate, and how could I maybe update some of it, not to cheapen the message of it, but just to make it a little bit more understandable. I would say that, particularly with that.
By the way,
Yes.
I'm going to throw this out. My favorite hymn of all time is Just a Closer Walk with Thee. I love
Great record. Great song.
I love Patsy Cline's version. I love Wynton Marsalis, I think, did a version. I love that. It's a simple chords. I just love that song. I don't know why. I get emotional every time I hear it.
No, listen, as a guy who grew up in church a lot and had the interesting experience of church in Canada was different than church in Kentucky. It's just informed pretty much all I do, and it's such a place of grace where you can just sort of settle at that moment. And I think that whether we consciously do it or not, you bring your spirituality to what you do, which is why your blessings are so incredible, which is why I think we're being blessed. And I can tell you from my perspective, I'm sure you share it, us being able to finally bridge this gap with somebody like you has just been amazing. We thank you so much for coming. Here's your problem. You are going to be sick of us bugging you to be involved with us.
Count me in. Any way that I can help, I'd love to.
And when do I meet Israel?
Well, I'll grab my phone
Where
in a
does he
second. We'll
live?
text him. He lives in Houston, but he's in LA a lot.
And he'll be at this desk. I don't know if you know, but are you familiar at all with the Pensado Awards?
I think it's fantastic. It's about time.
So hopefully end of June, you might be available.
Yes, I am.
It's spaces we need to cover. We actually need you on the formative committee, so we're making some right decisions.
Love it.
Which we can do all by email. Matt this is big for us. Brian Peterson on our team, thank you for
thank you, Brian.
for hooking this up. Please come back and be a regular with us.
I would love it.
Man,
Thank you,
pleasure,
guys.
bro.
Thank
Pleasure.
you so much.
DP, take us home.
What can you say? You know, a little bit of church was good today.
Yes, indeed.
Check out the songs that Matt has written, because I think you're going to really be impressed. You're going to learn something, make your life better, and who knows what it might lead to
That's right.
next week.
Well done.